I guess you heard the first guest. We are watching our country disintegrate. That country is Israel, and it's not going to be long for this world. It's very, very disturbing. But those of us who are smart enough to grasp who was doing this to us understood, look, they plant people, they plant them to stir things up, to direct them in the wrong direction. I go through the whole sequence of getting Jews out of their homes in the Gaza Strip and the Sinai and northern Sinai. Used to be we had a nation that could defend itself. Now it's just everywhere. It's not safe. And I don't see any change. It's exactly what I said would happen. And frankly, I don't want to be right about things. All right? I'm not doing this to be right. Look, the labor Zionists were being murdered by terrorists, got the Jews out of Sinai, got them out of their homes. Well, let's put it this way. What has the Sinai become? It was supposed to become. I was there, by the way. I was reporting. I followed Begin and said that. And, well, I watched them sell out the country. The fact of the matter is, it did not become an island of peace like he told us. We wouldn't have to go into the army and serve 30 days in the Sinai anymore. The Egyptians would guard our peace. And nobody believed that. Nobody. Now, I remember seeing Sadat, and this was...
Hey, Barry?
Yes. Roger, is that you?
This is Nicholas. I get nothing but an answering machine with Roger.
Isn't that disturbing? All right, I'm going to ad-lib the show, if you find enough. All right, I'm going to carry on. People, you get very Chamish ad-libbing, and as for Roger Stone, tacky, all right? And it would have been a good show. You've got yourself... I'll go back, by the way, to Sadat and Begin and the fellow of the Sinai. I saw Sadat wear a tie that was swastikas. It was right in front, well, of Begin, that's for sure. But of everyone else, he wore a tie with swastikas. Come on. Was he that? He didn't know what effect that would have on Jews. And still he wore it. And I watched this as a young reporter. I covered the sellout of the Sinai, and later on I found out Begin would not have acquiesced. He was forced to take allies into his government. Moshe Dayan, ally number one, and Ezra Weissman, ally number two. They brainwashed him in Washington. There were drugs involved. They got it. He didn't know left from right where he was. They managed to get him to acquiesce. And I covered that as well. People, I had a weird career. All I can say is, in the search for the truth, I mean objective truth, you're watching your nation sell out most of its land. The Sinai was, 36,000 square miles. Israel today is 9,000. Israel gave up any chance, of surviving. Look, what you're talking about in the Sinai is, it's become a base for terrorism. It's the Egyptians supposedly are fighting Hamas, and this nonsense. It was predictable from the beginning. From the very, very beginning, we watched Israel get chopped up. Now, it's a brutal story. First of all, you have to understand how far back this goes. All right, we won the 6-Day War. We had ourselves a buffer. We had buffers. Who in the right mind invites the PLO back to be your neighbor? Nobody. Believe me, nobody saw it as a good idea. But that's what the government of Israel did. Now, the betrayers, and you got to get my books to find out how Moshe Dayan was bought and sold, and Ezra Weizmann bought and sold to take over Begin and make him give up most of Israel. And I watched it. It was heartbreaking. It really was. And everything I wrote, everything came true the way I said it would. You don't know how difficult it is to go through life where you haven't been wrong, but the forces against you have made sure that you're sidelined. All right? You're not to be taken seriously. And meanwhile, your country is screwed. And I'm watching it, and it's not like I don't have a stake. Boy, oh boy. My family's there, my kids, my sister, my niece, my nephew. They're in the path of what's going to be happening. Now, it's happening in Israel right now, all right? Right now. No safety. There's no walking out of your house without knowing if you're going to be stabbed to death. I mean, you just don't have what you used to have, which was a buffer. You brought the PLO back, and what did you get? You got the PLO. Surprise, shock, surprise. All right, next thing that you have to understand was the government of the country was cooperating in every respect of the sellout, every aspect of it. They were cooperating. And you try. You came to Israel in your 20s to join the army, get an education, build a family, and you're watching the country being sold. Sold! Now, my previous guest, and I'm sorry I didn't have him on for the full 2 hours. I really am now. But the fact of the matter is, my previous guest knows it. Who is in charge of Jews is not who we think is in charge of Jews. The business with settlers, mean old settlers, they're causing trouble, and if Israel forced all of them out of their houses into ghettos, let the PLO take over, everything would be better. Who believes that? Who objectively believes a story like that? But that's what you're getting. And look, the fact is Oh,
There
gosh.
we go. Hello?
Roger, is that you? Roger?
Yes.
Oh, Roger, you're late. All right, let's start the show. I have lived for a while. Look, you've got a book. It's of interest to me for a lot of personal reasons. Let's start, first of all, with your new book. It's called The Clintons' War on Women. And now, people, I told you this before, but Roger Stone was an advisor to Donald Trump, who is using this book in his war against Hillary Clinton in this farce of an election. All right, let's go into it. You are accusing Mrs. Clinton of essentially being an accomplice to her husband's sexual victims. Go into this.
Yeah, I'd actually say accessory after the fact. I mean, the truth is, while the Clintons would like to deflect this into a discussion of marital infidelity or adultery or cheating, that's really not the central issue here. The issue, quite simply, is that Bill Clinton is a Bill Cosby-like sexual predator that numerous women, numerous credible women, have come forward and claimed to have been assaulted or raped or having him exposed himself to them, that Hillary has been the point person in the campaign to bully and intimidate these women, firstly out of testifying when subpoenaed, and in other cases out of going public, lest they get in the way of the Clinton political rise.
Wait a minute. You're saying she personally intervened to hush them?
Well, hiring a private detective to go out and threaten them, yeah, I would call that personally intervening, absolutely. And I document in the book her hiring of Jack Palladino, who in turn broke in and ransacked Kathleen Willie's home, slashed her tires, broke her windshield, killed her cat, threatened her children. Yes, I believe that Hillary Clinton hired him, and I think she wears the pants in this political partnership. She also, if you look at the research done by Barbara Olson, Hillary is also the one who runs the campaign to discredit Monica Lewinsky. Now, it's true that the Lewinsky relationship with Clinton was consensual. He seduced a 22-year-old intern. Still, they needed to discredit her and describe her as a slut, a nut, a stalker. So for someone who's supposed to be an advocate for women, I argue she has abused women.
I've been watching her. Look, I'm not terribly amused by this election campaign. It's a farce. But I've been watching Lewinsky, and I know her. I know she is not a nutcase. I can tell. All right.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
All right. Now, why is Hillary Clinton going to war for her husband? Why?
Well, it's not for her husband. This, I think, has always been a long-term plan. She was always supposed to succeed Bill as president. If you've watched any of House of Cards, she is Claire Underwood. This relationship is dysfunctional. It's a marriage of convenience. It's a political and financial partnership. They've both gotten extremely wealthy. Bill's made $100 million estimated since the time he left office. Hillary's worth about $85 million. Their 35-year-old daughter, Chelsea, is estimated to be worth about $20 million. The apartment she lives in Manhattan, just down the street from where I am right now, sold to the Clintons for $10.5 million. This is about power and money, and getting Bill reelected, elected governor, elected president, reelected, I think has been her goal. Now her goal is to succeed him. She would have done so 8 years ago, but this fellow Barack Obama got in the way.
All right. Now, once again, the plan to me is flawed. but it may work.
Well, I think I think you have to challenge the three central tenets of her campaign. One, she's an advocate for women and girls. Well, again, I think that the opposite is true. I think she has been an abuser of women and girls. Bill abuses them physically, then Hillary abuses them psychologically. Then secondarily, of course, is her tenure as Secretary of State. The Middle East is a disaster. We have systematically removed all of our allies and installed our worst enemies in the Muslim Brotherhood. The region is on fire. The terrorism problem is front and central because of the policies of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And then lastly is the $2 billion global fraud, which is the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation is not a charitable organization. It's a slush fund for grifters. It's a luxury travel service for the Clinton family. And it's a vehicle for the facilitation of multi-million-dollar bribes. When Hillary was Secretary of State, everything was for sale. Defense contracts were for sale. American foreign policy was for sale. All you had to do was make a sizable contribution to the Clinton Foundation and then line the pockets of Bill and Hillary personally with these speaking fee honorariums in the millions of dollars, and you could buy American foreign policy. The IRS would not put up with this from anyone else. It's amazing to me that they still have their tax status. Their federal filings with the IRS and their state filings are completely permeated with fraud. They are pulling millions of dollars out of the Clinton Foundation and putting it in their pockets. Those are the three issues that I think make her very vulnerable in the general election.
Now, before we go to commercial break, what's with the emails? Now, first of all, they're released this week. A lot of them are released. I'm not sure there's been a scandal found in that. What is with the email issue?
I think the emails, particularly the ones that have been deleted, show the nexus between the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton State Department. As I said, American foreign policy was up for grabs. So, for example, the nation of Qatar, which wanted to remove Gaddafi from power in Libya, put $2.5 million into the Clinton Foundation, put $1.5 million into Bill's pocket for a speaking fee, put $1 million into Hillary's pocket for a speaking fee, and gave $2.3 million to the Clinton Presidential Library. Lo and behold, we removed Gaddafi. We had to go to the national credit card to do it and borrow the money to bomb, but he would have survived without American air power. And what have we done? Well, we've replaced them with a radical Muslim government. Under Gaddafi, women could go to college, they could get an education, they could drive a car, they could choose their own husband, they could appear in public. Those things are no longer legal in Libya. Hillary has put women in Libya back 200 years.
Well, again, I wouldn't make Gaddafi a hero in all this, but I think he's a victim. And I agree with you there. And without diving into my research, what you have written is very parallel to what I have discovered. Look, let's just quickly, I'm not sure we have time before the break, just go over the big Bill Clinton. Look, the guy obviously can't be stopped. He sees a woman and he goes for her in a very illegal way, often, and he can't be stopped. Why can't he be stopped?
Well, I think he's a sex addict. President Gerald Ford told him that to his face, that he needed psychological help. He's a risk taker. He loves taking risks. A couple things I reveal in the book, but the most troubling one is Hillary says that black lives matter, but I guess they don't matter if you're Bill Clinton's abandoned, rejected, mixed-race son, Danny Williams. Danny Williams is the product.
Claim. This is a major claim. All right, who is Danny Williams? By the way, if we have to, we'll do this after the break. What son? What half-black son? Never
Danny
heard.
Williams is the product of Bill Clinton's union with Bobby Ann Williams, who was a black prostitute in Little Rock, Arkansas. This issue was first raised by the Reverend Say McIntosh, who was a minister in Little Rock. He seemed to drop the matter when Governor Clinton arranged for the pardon of his son, who was in the Arkansas State Penitentiary. In 1999, the Star magazine published a story saying that a DNA test showed that Bill Clinton was not Danny Williams' father. What they failed to report at the time was that the Star was owned by a man named Robert Altman. Altman was the Georgetown college roommate of Bill Clinton, a man who's given over $500,000 to the Clintons' various political endeavors and served briefly in the Clinton administration as Deputy Secretary of the Treasury. Today, the Star is owned by American media. They were very gracious. They opened their files to me. Guess what? There is no DNA test. There never was. Danny Williams is Bill's son. Now, they can all prove me a liar. This is easy. I'm in touch with Danny. He's a fine young man. He's happy to give us a DNA sample. When can we get Bill's? Just let me know.
All right, Russell, we have to take a 3-minute break. This is actually a good conversation, a little belated, but good. We'll plug you, we'll plug me in. We have something in common with, I'll tell you all about it in 3 minutes time. It's very
terrific.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188.
Oh, I guess 5 will do for this one. Get them all. And, well, thank you, David Cameron. We have a website, barrychamish.com. Now, Roger, tell people how to get hold of this book. And we're going to plug the Jeb Bush family, crime family, later. All right, first this book.
Sure. The Clinton's War on Women by Roger Stone and Robert Morrow. You can go to Amazon.com. You can go to Roger Stone, no D, RogerStone.com. You can go to ClintonsWar.com and order this book. It was number one among political books on Amazon when I looked, 2 days ago. It's doing very well despite a pretty concerted effort by the Clintons to pressure many in the mainstream media out of covering this book or interviewing me. I had an interview lined up on MSNBC 3 weeks ago, canceled minutes before we were scheduled to go. The booker knew exactly what we were there to talk about. Had a similar experience at CNN. So there continues to be, and we've seen this on so many issues, there continues to be a mainstream media blackout of news that is deemed to be politically incorrect or incompatible with the government and the establishment version or narrative of events. What's interesting to me...
a more absurd presidential campaign, a greater affront to democracy than this election?
Well, the good thing about our democracy is that things are better now with the advent of the Internet, radio shows like this one, cable television. All those things improve the situation because in the old days, as I recall, we had 3 networks, really 2 national newspapers, and therefore if it didn't happen there, it didn't happen. This is why the government was able to pull off the so-called Warren Commission report on President Kennedy's death, a total fraud. But the media of the day was completely controlled. If you tried to do that today, it'd be almost impossible. Too many cell phone cameras, too much technology, too much ability of the citizens to talk among themselves and between themselves. So I think things are better.
You think we're getting with a Clinton-Trump election and improvements, huh?
Well, all I'm saying is that the system is better if people can more freely exchange information. I would rather see a Trump-Clinton election than a Bush-Clinton election because that's a heads-I-win, tails-you-lose election. The Bushes and the Clintons are in it together. They are co-conspirators. They profiteer together. I don't have any question the 1992 election was an arrangement. Bush had his 4 years. It was Clinton's term. So why Bush virtually rolled over. He had plenty on Bill Clinton. He used none of it. They worked together in the Central Intelligence Agency. Clinton worked for the agency in the 60s. So did Bill Clinton. So did George H.W. Bush, according to Cord Meyer's book. And then, additionally, as we know, they were involved during the Iran-Contra crisis, trafficking cocaine through Arkansas, through Mena, Arkansas. Bush was the vice president in charge of the task force doing that. Bill Clinton was the compliant local governor, more than happy to take his cut. So these families have been in league together for many years. I think their plan was a Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush election, which would be no choice for the American people. Endless war, erosion of our civil liberties, our money is becoming worthless, more and more debt, more borrowing, higher and higher taxes on working people while the hedge fund managers on Wall Street pay almost nothing. That's what they plan to offer us. I would argue that Donald Trump has come along, and although he is a wild man, he's totally independent. He's not beholden to any secret societies. He's not beholden to Wall Street.
And so,
he has his own money.
Yes, he does. And I'm going to say again, do you see him as presidential?
I think he is certainly capable of being a strong president. Look, he's run a multi-billion-dollar international corporation. He's met more heads of state, more prime ministers, more presidents, more mayors, more governors than any of these other candidates for president. He's actually run in an executive position a giant company. The office we're electing is chief executive. Now, is he brash? Is he braggadocious? Yes. Does he aggravate a lot of people? No question. But something here is working. Because
really not. It's not a good election, okay? That's my point of view. I said it. You heard me. Look, let's go to the one thing that may actually overturn it for Hillary Clinton, and that's Bill's schlong. Let's go through Paula Jones. What did she say? What did she tell us?
Well, it's the most interesting of the various allegations. Remember that Bill Clinton paid Paula Jones $850,000 in the settlement of a civil suit to avoid going to trial. Essentially, Paula Jones was a state employee. She was working at a trade fair behind a table. Bill Clinton invited her to his room to talk about a job in his administration, allegedly. She was somewhat cautious about it, but when she got there, Bill Clinton exposed himself, pulled down his pants, pulled out his erect member, and told her to kiss it. She fled, and she filed her lawsuit, and she ultimately was vindicated. She, interestingly enough, in the newspapers again today, claiming that it was Hillary who was pressuring her not to testify, Hillary pressuring her to drop the matter, Hillary sending threats to her. Hillary is the campaign manager here. Don't think that she was never anything less than co-president. One of the things I established in my book was that it was Hillary who gave the final order to attack the Branch Davidian compound in Waco. She selected Janet Reno, the Attorney General. She selected the Deputy Attorney General. She vetted the entire cabinet.
That's a big accusation. You can't gloss over that. Why would she...
Well, let me say this. It's documented in two places. The House Committee investigation report by T. March Bell and the Senate investigation hearings that were chaired by Senator Arlen Specter. She was running the show. Anybody who doesn't remember the Clintons offering us 2-for-1 in the 1992 election doesn't have a very good memory.
I don't remember. What was the 2-for-1?
Well, they were claiming that she was going to be the most influential First Lady in American history. You may recall, she wrote the initial health care proposal, Clinton Care, which was defeated. She also fired the people in the travel office and tried to have them prosecuted. They were all exonerated. None of them had done anything wrong. Hillary just wanted to give the travel business to some of her cronies who ran a travel agency in Arkansas. She was a true co-president. She selected this cabinet, and she was very much in the swim of policy matters. I believe she gave the final order in Waco, in which 18 children under the age of 8 died in that firefight. They weren't killed by snipers. They were killed by fire or smoke inhalation. Completely avoided.
More in Benghazi. I looked at that from my own angle. You had an American ambassador he was allowed to die. I mean, they apparently watched it on closed-screen TV.
Extraordinary. Look, I wrote a short book about this, which you can still find online. I mean, the bottom line of it is very simple. The whole notion, the cover story that the attack on our mission in Benghazi was caused by an anti-Islamic video that was shown in Turkey was a canard that was cooked up by Sidney Blumenthal, who was a hitman on the payroll of the Clinton Foundation, but working directly for Hillary. The same day that she was out saying that publicly, she told her own daughter and the ambassador from Egypt in emails that we now have thanks to the House investigation that in fact our mission was attacked by a group affiliated with Al-Qaeda. So she was telling the American people one thing, and she was telling her intimates something entirely different. This catches her in an enormous lie. At the same time, our American mission and the CIA annex, which is about 2 miles down the road, both asked for reinforced security. It was granted at the CIA annex, where, by the way, they repelled an attack from the same people who attacked the mission. In fact, we killed more of them. We lost no lives at the annex. But they did not, despite 600 individual requests, they did not grant any of the security upgrades at the mission, which turned out to be a fatal decision. We see in the emails that the reason they didn't do so is because they were concerned about, quote, the atmospherics, the way it would appear. The bottom line of this is simple. The French, the British, the Germans, and the Soviets all left. They all closed their missions because it was too dangerous. She later outed our ambassador as being gay, giving that as one of the reasons why there was an attack on the compound.
Really?
This is very well documented. So she is, I think she's got blood on her hands. Now, is that enough to defeat her? The mainstream media decided that her appearance a couple weeks ago before the hearings was a tour de force. I didn't see it that way. I saw her getting caught in more and more lies. And I saw plenty of bites for television commercials. I could make them in a heartbeat. So, no, I think this is going to be a factor. Not the factor, but a factor if she is defeated.
All right, let's go through some more of these. All right, Catherine Prudhomme O'Brien.
Yes.
She interrupted Clinton. What happened to her?
Well, she is a state representative, an elected state representative in New Hampshire, but she's also herself a rape survivor. She attempted to ask Hillary about the claims of Juanita Broaddrick, who told NBC in a chilling interview you can still see on YouTube that she was raped and bitten by Bill Clinton. She said that he bit her upper lip so severely he almost severed it. By the way, that's the same thing Liz Ward Grayson, who was assaulted by Clinton, told Michael Isikoff of Newsweek, now of NBC. So obviously, this is his signature move. It's a disabling move for rapists. You can look it up online. It's pretty standard.
I've never heard of biting a lip as a disabling. Really?
Sure, because you stop covering your genitals and you start covering your bleeding face.
Okay. Things you didn't know.
There you go.
Where did Kathleen Willey fit into this?
Kathleen Willey was a very active Virginia Democrat. She was a volunteer in the White House social office. She wrote the introduction for my book. She's a very, very fine lady. Her family had some financial difficulties. She had worked in both of Clinton's campaigns, knew the president well. She and her husband had raised quite a bit of money for Clinton. She made an appointment to see the president to ask for a job. And what she got for her trouble was groped, was assaulted. Clinton, according to her, tried to put his hand down her pants and inside her bra. She fled when an aide knocked on the door to remind the president that he had another appointment. For 2 years, she did nothing and said nothing. Then when she got a subpoena from the special prosecutor in the Lewinsky matter, in the Jones matter, she came under a severe terror campaign by private detectives who later admitted that they were hired by Hillary to try to persuade her out of testifying. As I said earlier, they broke in and ransacked her home, slashed her tires, killed her pet, threatened her children by name. Strange men, walking up to her when she's jogging and threatening her. They killed her cat. And then they asked her, "Hey, how's your cat? Whatever happened to your cat?" No, it's a terror campaign. These are the kind of tactics that the Clintons have been willing to use.
Now, once again, this is not someone I would want to be my president. How are they keeping a lid on this? And these are crimes.
Well, I think that many in the mainstream media have been complicit in this because they believe in the Clintons' political agenda, and therefore they're willing to overlook what they view to be the president's, shortcomings. I do think. Well, and they have a very adept spin machine, but I do think that that's not going to happen this time.
That's the popular Bill Clinton. Now, as you watch TV, the popular Bill Clinton came out for his wife's campaign. A very different spin is taking place.
Well, I read the stories about his trip to New Hampshire. I don't think it's always going to be that smooth. You're not going to dislodge her from the Democratic nomination with these issues. But I do think that in the fall campaign, there's going to be more action surrounding Bill Clinton's problems and Hillary's role in them.
You hope.
Well, and I expect you're going to see all of these women. You may just today be hearing their names, but I think the Kathleen Willies and the Juanita Brodricks are going to be front and center in the presidential campaign.
Do they kill any of them? The Clintons? Do they kill any of the rape victims?
None of the women have been killed. There are a number of murders that have been ascribed to them. The one I focus on in my book is Jerry Parks. Parks was a Arkansas-based private detective who was hired by Hillary and Vince Foster, her law partner, to keep track on a number of women that Bill had either had consensual relationships with and then dumped, and therefore they were afraid they were going to come forward, or in some cases assaulted. They got through the campaign. Clinton reclaimed the governorship after losing it, and Parks presented his bill, $83,000. Clinton told him with a laugh, well, Jerry, the campaign's over, I won, and we don't really need you anymore, so you're not getting paid. He threatened to expose what he knew about Clinton and the women. 2 days later, somebody drove him off the road and shot him in the head. Now, his wife and his son believe it was done by the Clintons. Do I have proof that it was done by the Clintons? No, but motive, means, opportunity. Don't know who else would want him dead.
Look, if you're, scrutinizing who is going to be your leader, shouldn't all of this be put under the same scrutiny? My goodness.
Yeah, that's why I wrote this book and why I hope people will read it. That's precisely why I have done this. I don't think the mainstream media is telling us everything we need to know.
I've been getting it for years. And you know what? Tell people once again how to get the book.
Yes, you can go to rogerstone.com, no D, rogerstone.com, or you can go to amazon.com, or you can go to barnesandnoble.com if you have an account there, or you can go to Clinton's War, no apostrophe, clintonswar.com, any of those places, and you can order the book now, which Mrs. Stone would very greatly appreciate.
Thank you. Mrs. Stone, I'll do my best for you. Now, oh gosh, look, there's one side of things that I have something in common with you, and that's the Jeb Bush. You wrote a book that smashes through the lies. And look, my partner, my most influential friend, Joel Baderman, wrote Crimes of a President about the Bush family, the first book. Did you know that?
Wow. I'm familiar with the book. I didn't know the connection, but I am very familiar with the book. I think that's in my bibliography. I use some of that book with attribution.
Yep. He was my partner. We ran a newsletter before internet. We actually had to stuff them in envelopes and send them out, called Inside Israel. he wrote a book on the Bushes, and he did not live long. He died very young, okay? Enough of me. Let's go on to Jeb Bush and international drug peddlers, which Joel went into in his book. What do we know about this side of Jeb Bush? And by the way, he's probably not going to be a candidate, but let's go through this anyways.
Sure, thank goodness. No, look, I really profile Jeb Bush in my upcoming book, Jeb and the Bush Crime Family. I go into his shady business dealings. I go into the various frauds that he was involved in. 5 different partners of his from 5 different business enterprises are in prison even today. He was actively involved in dealing drugs when he was in boarding school. He was actively involved in dealing drugs when he was in college. He was actively involved in dealing drugs when he was living in Houston, and his father was vice president. And he was actively involved in dealing drugs when he was living in Miami. I document all of that in my book. He was also a heavy drug user himself. Lee Atwater told me that on the night that George H.W. Bush was elected, that he, Jeb, and George W. Bush were snorting cocaine together. That's in my book. This is, Jeb is a bad actor, and he's more like his mother than like his father. Haughty, arrogant, entitled, snotty, not a very warm fellow, very, very vindictive. And right now he's in orbit. He cannot believe that he has spent $50 million on national television ads, and he is getting somewhere between 3 and 5% of the vote and consistently running 5th. Americans want another Bush, or they need another Bush like we need another Clinton, which is to say, not.
And which is to say it's a possibility you're going to be stuck with that choice. It's out there.
The good news, as you pointed out, is he's not doing very well. I think New Hampshire will be his last stand. My book on the Bushes, Jeb and the Bush Crime Family, comes out January 26th, and I am doing the formal launch in Manchester, New Hampshire, because I'm leaving nothing whatsoever to chance.
Well, what you're stating is that Jeb, hypocrite, he deals with international drug peddlers and condemns drugs. And Hillary, she defends her husband, the rapist, and wants to have dignity for rape victims. It's all a farce, and it's getting overwhelming.
No, I don't disagree on those 2 points. I mean, yeah, Jeb's hypocrisy is incredible. For a guy who's been a drug dealer and a drug user, he's a big supporter of the war on drugs. It's perfectly okay with him if poor people or black people get incarcerated. They can't afford the expensive lawyers. They can't afford a get-out-of-jail-free card. So it's typical of the Bush family hypocrisy. The family patriarch, Prescott Bush, made his money arming the Nazis. He also owned a steel mill in Germany, which used slave labor from Auschwitz. It was very profitable. George H.W. Bush, as I said, was trafficking cocaine for the Central Intelligence Agency during the Iran-Contra controversy when he was the vice president and the head of a task force to come up with money to illegally finance the Nicaraguan rebels. So this is all in my book. I've gotten it by the lawyers, and believe me, the lawyers are the biggest pain in the ass. I mean, $800 an hour lawyers who are experts on slander and libel go through every line of your book, vetting every line of your book. But I'm happy to say everything has survived, and I expect, despite the fact that Jeb is not doing very well, I think this book is going to do very well.
All right, folks, for some reason, I'm involved in this side of research. Joel Boehnerman's book was all about Iran-Contra and is, Shimon Peres's partnership with the Bushes. You know what? Go to the internet, look up Joel Boehnerman, Crimes of a President, And look, Roger, what you said is right in line with what I come to believe. Oh, gosh. Roger, you have 30 seconds. Last plug. Give yourself a plug.
Sure. Go to bushcrimes.com and buy. You can order this book now. bushcrimes.com. I appreciate very much being with you, and I apologize for our problem getting hooked up. It was on my end.
We're archived at www.libertyarchives.com. You can get this show. Thanks, Rod.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.